Ollie, disappointing. It's that start again that keeps on happening. How do you try and remedy that?
That's a magic wand. It's about starting on the front foot. We tried to do that today. We played against a good team that made it hard for us. They pressed us and we couldn't find a way out of the press. And unfortunately, when you concede a goal very early on, that makes it very difficult.
Therefore, the spirit after 6 seasons together, see the team still running without the ball, players with a quality like Bernardo, like Gabriel, like Kevin. Today is back and do without the ball that done. This is our secret, and that's why we won today.
We were expecting them more offensive, maybe even more pressing, high pressing. So we had to be ready to play out of our back, dominated possession, and didn't give them much, to create chances.
That result and performance against Liverpool dented us big time. Of course it did. So. And last week looked like we might get through this. Today was a massive test, but we weren't at the standard that we know we can be and what we need to be against the top teams in Europe.
I think most people expected more of a response from United after the half-time.
They tried, but they could not do it.
Absolutely.
Why? We had the ball. We need a game like the ball in the fridge. Keep it there. And a lot of passes, and today we did it brilliantly.
Well, it was in the fridge for a long time, and they certainly remained ice cold. But as derbies go, Danny, that was as one-sided and as comfortable as you can imagine it being.
Well, it was a masterclass. They were tenacious without the ball, excuse me, technically brilliant with it, and a brilliant and tactical plan from Pep, as always. Reminded me of the Chelsea performance in many ways. Everybody at it, no passengers, which is exactly what you got. This is how you play against the back three. He always does this, Pep. High and wide, his two wide players, gives the wing-backs a problem. They drop in and make a 5, which means the full-backs can then dominate the game. Foden running in off that wide area, causing Wan-Bissaka a problem, means Cancelo, look, he's looking to his right, who's picking him up? Fernandes playing narrow in a 3 in midfield, can't get out there. Bailly's not talking to him enough, and he nearly gets in here. That's an early warning sign. Can happen early in the game. Constantly getting 2v1s. This is a perfect example. Wan-Bissaka, look, asking somebody to take Foden, really should be dropping off. But that's because Cancelo's free as well. And he was all over the place. But he didn't get much help from his teammates. And again down this left-hand side. I mean, the game, 2-0 at half-time, it could have been 4 or 5. Look how easy it is to switch your play. High up Cancelo, possession, free in the United half, giving Foden 1v1s versus Wan-Bissaka. They played it well against Tottenham, but it was a one-off game against the poor side. Against good quality opposition, they got pulled all over the place. Bernardo Silva, Gundogan and De Bruyne, all taking it in turns to play as a false 9, meant the back three were at 6s and 7s, didn't know what to do. And Cancelo with his second assist at the half. Wan-Bissaka's come out too late because he's preoccupied with where Foden is. And you'll give him one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League, 30 yards of space to put in balls into. It's a masterclass in terms of tactics from Pep. But look at the touches for the fullbacks. I mean, the one thing for me was 20 minutes in, we could all see it, and he didn't change it till half-time when the game was done.
No. Interesting. I mean, you thought there was a huge contrast, didn't you, between the two sides' intensities. Pep himself said, our secret is how much we run off the ball.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret, though, is it?
It's not a secret.
It's a prerequisite, really. But
before I start, City are a very, very good team. But all the best teams work harder than anyone else, Gary. That's a given. And one of the reasons is why they're so good is because they do that. Then the flair players can go and do all of their stuff. If City players don't work hard, they get left out. If Chelsea players don't work hard, they get left out. If Liverpool players don't work hard, they get left out. Watch the difference between Man City's work rate today and Man United's work rate. This is how it should be done. When you lose the ball, everyone is after it. They go in it. They go as a team. They don't go in 1s and 2s. And they work their socks off to get that ball back. It's why they're a very, very good team. They're all on the same page. Just look at the intensity to get the ball back, to work harder than any team. Then when they get the ball, the players can go and strut their stuff. They do it as a team. They all go together, and they're very, very good at it. And no one can cheat the system in terms of the working hard. Pep said it's not. it's something that the good teams and the good players have to do, and that's why City are successful, and that's why they'll have a chance of being successful this season. I mean, it was an incredible performance from them, both with and without the ball. This is the last minute, by the way. They're 2-0 up. Watch their star players, their big players, trying to get the ball back. The game's won. It's in the last minute, so that's what their manager demands, and if they don't do it, they're out. Someone else comes in. Now, this is Man United. Watch I wouldn't even call it the closing down. Bruno Fernandes. That should be a sprint. Jog, jog, jog. No. Sprint, close down. That ball should not be allowed to come into the 18-yard box. Exactly the same thing again. Stop that cross at all costs. Then that's not in the back of the net. Now, there's the sprint. You have to do it. Kevin De Bruyne gets the ball in here. Work hard. Close him down, Luke Shaw. Fred, no, nothing. Take a touch in the box. Defending a corner, Greenwood and Fernandes again. To get out there. The cross comes in again. OK, it's a poor cross. It should be stopped. Exactly the same thing again. This time it's Wan-Bissaka. Get out. Sprint. You can't afford to jog. That ball has to be stopped. Now, all right, it's terrible defending from Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw, but stop it at source. And that's why Man United will not be a successful team this season. Look at the difference in the sprints.
There's the evidence. That's evidence.
The evidence. Top four sprints from Man City players.
This question then. If Pep Guardiola was the manager of Manchester United, would their intensity be higher?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So therefore, because players don't go out on a football pitch ever, do they, not to try? We all know that. Not at this level. That doesn't happen. But where does that effort come from? Does it have to be the manager? In which case...
Of course it...
In which case, do Manchester United have to look at the Ole situation?
Well, look, I'm sure they will do, but the evidence is there from the players. If the players wanted him to continue in his job, they'd give more effort. It's both, Gary. You should never, ever, ever be told that you have to go out and work hard. But the system and the pressing and everything else comes from the manager.
If they want to compete with the big teams now, Liverpool, Chelsea and City, they need to change the manager.
Well, I think it's fair to say that anyone watching the derby today will have seen that Manchester City completely outclassed Manchester United, and they had complete control of the game. And it was actually quite disappointing from Manchester United's perspective, because this is a derby, Darren. Didn't you expect to see much more from them?
Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing as a spectacle because, as you said, there is a derby, quite a fierce rivalry. But it was so one-sided, it bordered on embarrassing a little bit in terms of the way Manchester City played. They did exactly what they wanted to do. There was no real pressure or sustained pressure throughout the game from Manchester United. You could quite evidently see there was a game plan for Manchester City in terms of the way they wanted to play, the intensity, control in the middle of the pitch. And Manchester United kind of showed up today hoping to rely on individuals, maybe Ronaldo, we've seen him do it in the week, Bruno Fernandes, maybe Mason Greenwood, and it just didn't happen today. And it was quite convincing that even though the scoreline read 2-0, it should have been probably 5 or 6.
What's the problem at Man United?
Well, you know, if you look at today's game and you think it's a Manchester derby, they were beaten across the board in everything. Shots on target, possession, yellow cards. You know, it just shows you the intensity of the team in terms of physically, belief, fitness, energy, all together. There's so many different things that are not in place in order to be able to compete against a team like Manchester City that it's very hard for the players, for me, to put out performances. You live in performance by performance. It's almost like game per game as opposed to a constant team message. And I think the win at Tottenham is a roller coaster. And then all of a sudden you're back down again. And I think like that stability is missing this season. It's hard for the manager and the players.
It's hard for the manager and the players. They had 4 touches, by the way, in the opposition box today, which is, you know, you couldn't even make that up. You wouldn't think that stat would be associated to a Manchester derby. But does this all come down to Ole? Because I know a lot of the blame seems to be directed towards Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is it up to him, or do you think the players need to do more as well?
Yeah, of course, the players, evidently, they're out there, obviously on the pitch, trying to put the game plan together. But when you talk about tactics and in-game management and certain decisions, whether it be down to team selection, for me, he's failed time and time again. He got lucky, and you have to say he got lucky against Spurs, falling on that 3-5-2. Cavani, Ronaldo, it seemed to have worked.
Did it work because Tottenham weren't that great as well?
That was obviously a big part of it. Tottenham weren't great. But it's almost like now, that's the formation that worked. Let me stick with it. And he obviously tried to go with it again today, and it quite clearly, evidently didn't work. So, for me, a lot of it does fall on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's doorstep.
You have to say it's the manager's responsibility, for sure. I mean, unless we're saying that the players don't want to play well for him. I think they do. I think the players probably really like him as a person and want to do well. But the messages, whether it's the training, whether it's the philosophy, what's training like every day, is it intense, is it competitive, are the players fit enough in order to play the way that they want to play? All of these things are the manager's responsibility to put on every day, every week for the players. And I just feel that it's quite flat.
Playing a certain way as well, as Matty's saying there, when you play against a certain level of opposition, like Spurs, for instance, who had a bit of a funny period, not very good, in all honesty, you can play a certain way and get away with it. But the higher up you go, you look at the likes of what Liverpool did to them, 5-0. Atalanta in the week weren't particularly great, but had a game plan, better man management tactics. They should have beaten Manchester United. And you look at City today, if City had Florent Torres or someone who was a centre-forward striker, I promise you today, it would have been 5 or 6 again. But the fact is, against Liverpool, there's players in Liverpool's team that are ruthless, that are hungry for goals. Salah, Mane, Jota. Manchester City haven't really got that in the team. They're just happy to kind of pass you off the pitch, and if an opportunity arises, then they'll take it. But if they'd had someone on the pitch today that was hungry, desperate to score goals, they would have won 5 or 6 again today. And
also, we talk about successful teams being built on strong defences as well. They haven't kept a clean sheet at home since April in all competitions. That's a terrible stat to be associated with if you're Man United.
Well, it reflected again today. The goals were awful. Really poor goals. I mean, I think Bailly's got time to react to that cross in order just to side foot the ball out for a corner, just make clean contact and get the ball away from the goal. And the second one, again, hesitation, indecision. And these are all words that you use with a team that are struggling, and lack of confidence, lack of direction. And that's what I see when I watch Manchester United play. I mean, from this area of the pitch, there's plenty of time for the ball to travel in there. It's not travelling at the speed of light. Adjust your feet and just punch the ball out of play.
It's almost like he's trying to take the leather off the ball.
Yeah, I don't know how far he feels he's got to clear this ball. He's only got to touch it 5 yards out for a corner. You haven't got to swing a leg at it.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just a bit reckless, and those there's big decisions in the game are not being made correctly.
I was also listening to a lot of fans, Man United fans, talking about this particular moment, saying, where was Harry Maguire as the captain, saying, come on, guys, like galvanising the team. We're not seeing many vocal players there.
But listen, he's the reason why they're in this form as well, because his form has been terrible. And this goal kind of highlights that, because listen, it's a great ball from Cancelo, but Maguire can deal with it, Shaw can deal with it, and then De Gea at the end, he's got to keep that out. But again, it's communication. If you look at Shaw and Maguire, is there communication? Is Shaw saying to Harry Maguire, you deal with it? It's on his head. But surely as a defender, Matty, as well, if it's there, you just go and deal with it.
Yeah, I think he takes a different line. He doesn't drop fully into position, so then the ball, he like drifts away from it, as opposed to just come onto it and just head it out.
Deal with it.
Yeah, but when you see a Maguire that's confident, comfortable, on top form, he deals with that. No problem. But I think around him, it just feels that the insecurity of being in that team at the moment. I think there's a few players probably feeling that way.
At the minute as well, Steve, it's a little bit like we and Matty was talking about it a bit earlier. They're defending as individuals. So, like, Wan-Bissaka's worrying about his area. Lindelof's worrying about his own performance. Maguire and Shaw. Whereas when you looked at Man United when they were doing very well defensively, solid, they were a unit and they were not conceding any goals and it looked solid.
I wonder why that's changed, though.
It's confidence maybe plays a big part. But as I said, because so much maybe criticism has been labelled at each one of them individually, they're almost thinking to themselves, well, sorry, I'm not looking after you now. I've got to look after my own performances. But now it's showing in their performances because they're conceding goals left, right and centre.
Well, earlier on Matchday Live, Steve Bauer was at Old Trafford with Michael Owen, Owen Hargreaves and Paul Scholes. And here's what they had to say about Manchester United's performance.
United manager today, that's not a surprise to you, what City did?
No, City have been doing that for years. But what is a surprise? You turn up and you see Manchester United and you don't know what formation they're going to play. They're collecting a load of players, all these great players from around the world, and they don't even know what formation they're going to play. They're chopping and changing all the time. I mean, you've got to have a vision. You've got to be able to see further than the end of your nose and think, right, this is the way we're going to play. No matter what, we're going to buy players for these positions, right? And now let's go and play that position. If things go wrong, if you concede 5 against Liverpool, you don't think, right, the defence is rubbish, let's just go and put one more player in there. It's ridiculous. And I'll go back to what Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool, and he's the best exponent at it. He came in and said, this is how we're going to play. Our full-backs are going to bomb forward. We're going to have a sit in midfield. We're going to play 3 up front. And do you know what? We'll go 3-0 up, and then they used to concede 3 all the time. And what did he think? Oh, we're conceding all the time. Let's put more... No, he didn't. It's the best thing in the world because it weeds out the weak. The poor players get weeded out because they get exposed in a formation. All Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does, as soon as there's a weak player, let's cover for him, let's put even more defensive. And in the meantime, you're buying hundreds of millions of pounds worth of players. It's like, you don't do that. Weed out the weak. If you're not good enough, go and get someone else. But in the meantime, go through the pain barrier, because this is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to play, no matter what. So all they're doing at the minute is just covering for weaknesses and looking at the next week. Oh, good team, let's just play loads of defenders. Oh, bad team, let's play loads of attackers. It's rubbish. That's not how you go about things. You have to have a long-term plan. The minute Manchester United going one Wednesday to the next Saturday, just step by step. They're a bit good. Oh, let's panic. Let's play loads of defenders. That's not how you do it. You've got to have a long-term plan. Weed out the rubbish if that's the case. But you've got to go through a bit of pain on the way, because Man United aren't, mid-table Premier League team. If their target is the top of the to win the league, then that's how they've got to do it. They're not going to do it by just us lot sitting here and thinking, do you know what? He's going to play defensive again today because he's playing against a better team. We're talking about Man United here. I can't stand there and we all agree that that's what was going to happen, but I can't accept that that's the right thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, I know what Michael's saying. A conviction has to come from your coach of a way you're going to play football. Ole's been here 3 years now, and we're coming today not really knowing what he's going to do, as Michael said. And again, that ruins everything. That makes the recruitment almost impossible, because you're not buying players for a system. You look at Pep, he buy players for his system. He brought Grealish in this year for his system. Mahrez in for his system. Jurgen Klopp brings Jota as another forward in for his system. We're bringing players in and trying to shoehorn them into positions.
Just the next great player we'll bring in, isn't it?
He's the next most expensive player. He's the next one who's mentioned in the papers all the time. We'll bring him in. He must be brilliant. Oh, wait a minute. Where's he going to play? How are we going to play? And 3 years down the line, that's... Well, you've seen on the pitch. You've seen the evidence on the pitch, haven't you? Today and 2 weeks ago. We're a long way off. As Michael said, I do think we've got a group of good players, but they now all he has to convince himself, not himself, he has to convince everyone that he's the right man to find the right formation for this team. Stop messing about changing it for everybody else, as we keep on doing. If something's not right, we'll change it. We'll cover for him, as Michael said. He's got to now have a conviction. Look, it's 4-2-3-1. It's 4-3. Whatever it is, I don't care what it is. Yeah. Have that conviction that suit the players that are in the team. Actually, we said before the game, the 3-5, it doesn't really suit the players of the team. Wan-Bissaka, useless on the ball at right back. Not brilliant defender, useless on the ball at right back. 3 centre-halves, none of them are that good on the ball. We haven't got a left-footed centre-half. None of them are that good on the ball. They have got to find a way. Ollie's got to find a way, the best system, and it's his job, by the way. He gets paid well to do this, to find the best system for this team, the best way of playing, with the best players in them positions. And I think there's a squad of players there that could be OK.
I guess it comes back to what you were both saying, in similar fashion to what the boys were saying, that this team doesn't seem to have a plan or an idea of how they're going to play. And until we get to that point, we're going to keep seeing results like this.
It's a roller coaster. There's highs and lows and result to result. And that's what they're saying. What's the plan? Where's the direction? How are we playing? And then you look at things like fitness, tempo, discipline in the group. All of these things that managers have to contend with day in, day out, and with a group of players, and get those decisions right in order to make a team that wants to win the Premier League.
It must be very difficult to be in that position as a player if you're playing for a team where the manager's not able to get the best out of you and you're having to endure that week in, week out. I mean, who takes control in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, as players, you have to kind of look at yourself and do all you can do for yourself if the manager's not going to do it for you. But also, as well, it must be difficult being a player when you look at your manager, knowing that he's not able to make the big decisions as well. Because there's been decisions this year where maybe certain players are not playing as well as they should do, or don't quite fit the system that you want them to play. But because they've got Ronaldo on the back of their shirt, or they've got Fernandes on the back of their shirt, it's almost like they're irreplaceable. It's like the Everton game where he was criticised for dropping Ronaldo. It's almost like he got the criticism from it, so he feels like he can never do that again. So all of a sudden now, everyone else around him are moving parts, but Ronaldo's the one constant. So if I'm someone like a Jadon Sancho as well, you start thinking to yourself, what have I come here for? They've signed me for all this amount of money. I'm not being given an opportunity to show how good I am. On the flip side, Pep, proper manager, buys Jack Grealish for 100 million, and says, you know what, here's the first 6 games, get yourself into the team, get a run of steam, and then we'll assess you after that. Jadon Sancho's not even been given that, so how can you possibly blame Jadon Sancho, or even Donny van der Beek for that matter? We don't even know how good he is.
No, the conversation about Manchester United is going to continue, no doubt. But shall we have a quick word on Manchester City? Because it was pretty comfortable for them today, wasn't it?
Well, they're just a class act. Really, the way they play. Benny mentioned it in terms of their mentality as a team. Sometimes you feel it's to toy with you a little bit. They're in control of the game. Perhaps we don't need to score anymore. We'll just play our football. We'll play around the 18-yard box. And I think playing a back three against that system with no recognised centre forward is a disaster. Whenever I've seen them play against the back three, they've just terrorised them because none of the centre backs know where to mark, where to be.
No.
It's unreal, and they're just such a clever team.
They are, and I mean, this question about do they need a number 9 resurfaces every single week, but I just wonder how good they could be, Darren, if they did have a number 9.
Yeah, I still think they need one. They've had games this season where it's been a bit tight. You go back to the Southampton game, for instance, or even Crystal Palace where they got beat. They created that many opportunities with that many good players. If they've got one player in there that's focused solely on scoring goals, they're unbeatable for me. And even today, as I said, they completely controlled the game. It was easy for them. They played in second gear. But honestly, if they had someone like, even if it was Ferran Torres who was fit today, or they had, dare I say it, Harry Kane had came in at the start of the season, he plays today, he scores 5. They win 5-6-0. And that would happen in most weeks because they dominate pretty much every game that they play in.
And actually, we pick out the attacking players quite often, don't we, for Manchester City? But Cancelo had a great game today as well, didn't he?
He's been brilliant.
Yes.
Cancelo, you look at Diaz, you've got Stones coming back in because Laporte couldn't play. Across the board, they're just a really solid, and they've been going some time now.
Yeah.
So they've been together, some of this group, a long, long time. They know each other well. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they've got a clear picture. And he's able to not play Jack Grealish, to not play out other players and then bring them back in different games. He manages the squad accordingly to the game.
And there's obviously that healthy competition for places within the squad, which I guess keeps the players upping their game.